Welcome everybody to the DC booth. My name is Topher. I'm going to introduce you to amazing artists. This is Freddie Williams II. Oh, come on. Yeah. He has brought some amazing art to show off to you guys, and he's going to do a little art demonstration for you as well. He works on titles such as Injustice versus He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Batman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, He-Man and Thundercats. Do we have any He-Man and Thundercats fans out there? Yeah. What about Batman? Oh, that was sad. Come on, Batman from the DC booth. There we go. That's better.
Is that exposure-wise? Okay.
Oh,
all right, so
nice.
We don't have a whole lot of time, but I'm going to do a small ink wash demonstration. It doesn't show up real well on here, but basically the way I work is in shades of gray. And so what I did was I decided to bring up a piece that has half of Batman and half of Raphael here. Basically, I have diluted India ink. India ink is what we typically use to draw the comic books to make a nice dark black color that is also archive safe, that will last for 100 years or something. So what I'm doing right now though is using that same type of ink, but I've added water to it to give it a gray value, and hopefully that it shows up somewhat.
Yeah, it looks great.
Thank you. But typically what I'll do is use diluted India ink in different values. So like this is more of my slightly heavier value. You can use lighter values, which just means you add more water. And then after I'm working on this for a little bit, I would put it aside. And like that's like a little bit too much liquid. So then you can just kind of, while it's still wet, you can use a paper towel and kind of dab it off so that it lightens up the value a bit. You can get some of your highlights back by doing that, but you have to be paying really close attention so that it doesn't dry too long on the page. And then what gives it that watercolory sort of look later on is you wait for this to dry, and then you go over it again with more ink wash, and the overlapping areas, it kind of puddles up and it bleeds out into the paper. And that's what gives it that really organic sort of, watercolory, gritty, textured look.
You have a very unique style compared to some of the other artists that work at DC and a variety of their comic books. How did you come about your style like this?
I first read about using ink wash from an artist named Travis Charay, who's an artist who worked at Wildstorm Studios back in the 90s, and he's an amazing artist, and I believe, I'm not sure exactly what he's doing right now, but he once in an article described working in ink wash and using different dilutions of ink that you would put in these little jars and stuff, and so that got me wanting to start trying that. Also, there's an amazing artist named Francis Manipul. He doesn't work in ink wash, but he works in watercolor to a very similar effect, though. And looking at their artwork got me interested in trying it, so I would do it like on practice pieces or warm-up pieces and that sort of thing to kind of, to have fun. And it was very different than my normal style, but eventually I felt like I was fluent in it enough that I could maybe try it on actual sequential artwork. And that's how it ended up that I started was doing Batman and Ninja Turtles that way. Somebody over here had asked if the thickness of the paper matters, and it does. This is just 2-ply board, so it'll actually start to ripple a bit because of all the liquid I'm putting on it. What I typically use for my published work is a 3-ply Bristol board that is much thicker, so it can handle all the liquid a lot better. And I'm cool. If anyone has questions,
does anybody have questions for anybody? Anybody?
Yeah.
What about you? Yes. What's your name?
Yeah.
Ilya. Yes.
And where are you from, Ilya?
I'm from Santa Cruz.
Welcome to San Diego Comic-Con. Is this your first Comic-Con?
Yeah.
Yeah? No. What's your question?
My question is that all of this stuff is belongs here.
Does all this stuff belong here? Yes, everybody belongs here at Comic-Con. We're welcome to everybody. especially great artists like this. Do we have any other questions? Yes?
I'm just wondering what the digitizing process is after it's painted.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. Basically, so the question was how the artwork is digitized after it's been painted, and we use a scanner that can pick up grayscale values. Actually, scanner technology has increased quite a bit. So even like your standard sort of scanner that you might get at an office supply place, oftentimes can work really well. And a tip that I read online that one of my friends, David Yarden, who does covers for Injustice and Wonder Woman and stuff, he had recommended is if your scanner is blowing out your highlights, to put a piece of acetate or clear vellum or something in your scan bed first, then scan through that so that it, or a clear piece of plastic or something, so that it basically dulls the bulb that's making the scan. So that can be a helpful tip. But once that's scanned in, then we match it back up to our template just to make sure it's at the right publisher standard, and then send that on to the next person. For me, it would be to the colorist and the letterer. Yeah.
And do you usually color as well?
I have colored some pieces. I colored some covers, like the original Batman Ninja Turtles series. I colored all the covers for that. But currently I'm working with an excellent colorist named Jeremy Caldwell, who has a great deal of experience coloring over ink wash, because it's very easy to make things look too muddy if you don't know what you're doing. And he's worked with it, and we've worked together for a long time. So he's an excellent colorist, and I'm happy that we've got to do Batman Ninja Turtles, both of volumes 1 and 2. We did He-Man Thundercats, and then now we're on Injustice and Masters of the Universe. We're on that together as well.
Did you have a question down here? Did you have a question? Yeah? What's your name?
Yeah.
Sophia. Where are you from, Sophia?
Poway.
Poway? What's your question, Sophia?
I was wondering how long did it take to make it?
How long it took to make this?
How long it took to make that one?
I mean, like how long did he practice for?
Oh, how long did you practice for? How long have you been drawing?
Oh wow. I started taking drawing seriously probably when I was about 13, and now I'm 200 years old, so a very long time. I'm 41 now. I broke into to comics whenever I was about 27, but I'm always practicing. I'm always struggling with stuff, and the way that you get better at anything is just by practicing and messing up, and then keep going and keep trying, and eventually you make fewer mistakes, and then eventually you start doing it well, hopefully. But this specific drawing, probably up until this point, has probably taken me about 2 hours, give or take. And if I were to do a fully finished piece like this in this style, it might take up to 15 or 20 hours, something like that, because you have to layer back and forth the ink wash quite a bit. That's one of the drawbacks of working in this style, is that it's labor intensive. But you get really cool textures. I'm not sure how much it's showing up on here, but it's when this stuff dries, it bleeds out into the paper, and it kind of gets this puddly, organic quality.
And how long does it usually take to dry?
It could take anywhere. It depends on how puddly. Like I'm mopping up some of the bigger puddles, but probably 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. And then usually I'll work on multiple pages back to back, so that while this is drying, I would work on a second piece.
What's been one of your favorite characters to draw?
Batman is perfectly designed. He's from a graphic art standpoint, he looks perfect. You can tell it's him from any distance, because he has a great silhouette. If you show a close-up of his boot or his hand, his belt, everything, you can tell immediately that it's Batman. So he's probably the most enjoyable to illustrate, yeah. Now the texture that's on the little turtle shell that's on the front of their chest, I just take a paper towel and dab it in some of the lighter wash, and you get these little bitty shapes. It's a texture that would take a long time to draw if you were trying to individually draw each of those little bits, but in this way you can kind of cheat a little bit, and it does the work for you.
That's really neat. It gives you kind of a weathered effect.
Yeah, it looks like it would have a rough surface if you were running your hand over it.
Do we have any questions out there? Anybody else? Questions? Wait, over on this side. What's your name, sir?
Mason.
Mason, where are you from?
Oh, really far away in East County, San Diego.
Oh, East County. Very nice. Very nice. What's your question?
Do you feel like going for this like kind of style of art, the coloring and the texture and stuff? Do you feel you more drawn to this than actual just sketching and then inking afterwards, or are you more into the watercoloring and stuff now?
I think that this is a very forgiving way of working that you can keep adding and taking away from it. More adding than taking away, but so I am drawn to this quite a bit. I think my favorite way of drawing is just to sketch very freeform in pencil and similar to, I think it might be blown out. Yeah, you can't see it. There's some bats that I penciled in here that you can't really see that are super, super light and just scribbly. I enjoy the scribble part of it because it's just, there's no pressure to make it look finished. And so a lot of like the little style guides I'll do before I start on a project will be in a really scribbly, loose pencil style. And that's what I enjoy the most. Usually I can also do that from anywhere, whereas working in this way, I have to work with a whole setup around me, so it's harder to travel with this setup. But I'm sure it'll come back around where I'm working in pen and ink and that sort of thing eventually.
And you said you're working on Injustice versus He-Man and the Masters of the Universe right now, right?
Yes, sir.
And how's that going?
It's going great. The first issue just came out yesterday, so if anyone's looking to jump onto it, it's a great jumping on point because it's the very first issue, and there's a cover by me, which is this cover that I was showing earlier. This is the first.
Yeah, that is a great cover. Look
Thanks.
at that. Superman
So
and
got,
He-Man up there.
Yeah,
and then the whole crew. There's Batman.
So it's got Orko in it. He's one of the main characters. He's actually pretty funny. And then Batman, Harlequin, and Tila are all in there as well. And it just came out yesterday, and I'm about halfway through issue 3 right now.
Nice and ahead of the game. Can you tell us anything about the story to tease our audience here about that one, maybe?
Yeah, it's a really fun story written by Tim Seeley, and the gist of it is that in the Injustice world, if any of you guys have seen the comic books or the video games, Superman has become essentially a tyrant or a dictator of that world, and the resistance is led by, there's a lot of characters in it, but essentially Batman is the primary leader. And so since there's a big vulnerability that Superman has to magic, kryptonite's not his only vulnerability, magic is also a big vulnerability to him. Basically, they're scouring the multiverse to try to find magical threats to be able to challenge Superman. And so Batman, they were able to locate Prince Adam on Eternia, which is He-Man. And He-Man's power base, he's incredibly powerful, but his power base is magical as well. So they go and find him, and they find him in the middle of a coup that is happening on Eternia. And He-Man makes clear that the type of leader he would want to be is not one that would rule with force, that he basically would be more of a benevolent king. And that was music to the ears of Batman, and so they recruit him to help defeat Superman. So that's the basic premise of it. And it's a 6-issue miniseries, and Tim has written some fantastic stuff that I'm really looking forward to drawing.
You guys worked together on the Batman or the Batman Ninja Turtles?
No, I worked with James Tynion on
that's right.
Batman Ninja Turtles on both volumes, and then worked with Rob David and I can't remember his last name is Lloyd Goldfine. That's what it is. From Mattel on the He-Man and Thundercats crossover.
Oh, nice.
So I've been really lucky that I've been getting to draw all these cool crossovers. It's
you've been like the crossover king at DC. It's been really fun.
I'm hoping to, assuming that's true, I'm hoping to retain that title for as long as I can.
It's a good title.
Yeah, it's the most fun I've had on a book on all these series. It's like playing with all your cool toys from when you were a kid.
Yeah. It's like it's the great '80s nostalgia mix-up, and you get all these great characters that you get to draw. nice wide variety. I'm being told we have a couple more minutes. I can take a couple more, maybe one more question from fans. Anybody? Yes, one more. Just one more? All right.
If he's the crossover king, what's your ultimate crossover?
Oh, yeah. What's the ultimate crossover? If you could do anything.
Anything?
If we cross over anything, what would it be?
That's a pretty big question,
Ooh,
I think.
that's
I'd
a
have to give
hard
it-
question.
Yeah, I think off the top of my head, it would just be incorporating even more. Like, I'd love to do maybe a, like G.I. Joe and Transformers and the Justice League and, like mix everybody
All of
together into one. But I'd want it to be like like 200 issues or something that I could spend the rest of my life
story
drawing.
of crossovers.
Yes, yeah. I could draw for the rest of my life.
Oh, one more? Yes? No, you got to come up here. You got to come up here and tell me your name.
Dominic,
Dominic, where are you from?
San Diego.
San Diego. Welcome. Is your first Comic-Con? No. A dozen times. All right, good, good. What's your question?
So the first two books that you were talking about, where can we find those right now?
The Batman Ninja Turtles and the He-Man Thundercats, those?
Injustice ones?
Oh, yes. Injustice, Injustice versus Masters of the Universe, that's available at any local comic book shop because it came out just yesterday. I'm sure they're at booths here.
Yeah,
but
there's got to be a couple comic book booths left at Comic-Con, right? You should be able to find fresh
hope
Wednesday
so.
releases, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe just the first issue is available.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
the very first issue.
And then the Batman Ninja Turtles, both Volume 1 and I believe Volume 2 is almost available or available
Volume
now?
1 is available in a hardcover, and it's also available in a deluxe edition that just came out. Volume 2 will be out in like mid-August, so just like a couple of weeks away.
Soon, very soon. Thank
Yeah.
you. All right, Freddie, we almost ready to wrap this one up. This is looking amazing.
This would take a lot longer for me to actually call finished, but it's essentially, this is the direction that you go in, and then you just keep layering it on top of each other. So anyway,
This has been great. What a treat to see the watercolor done live, the ink coloring done live.
wash.
Thank you so much for
Thanks.
bringing this on board. Can we get a
Thanks,
big round of
guys.
applause for Freddie, everybody?
Thank you.